Just before you do, because there is a piece of this that it's been touched upon. The, the piece that we have introduced to the responsive classroom deals with the morning time, the beginning of the year, those things that are preparatory. The second round of training really gets into what do you do when a student continues to be disruptive. That is a huge piece of the second round of training. The other part of training that comes in the second round, it's a lot of what they call academic choice, which is where you get into differentiated instruction. I mean, they could call it that. So about half of what you learn on the second round of training is more differentiating instruction than anything else. Could that fall under something totally different? We could call it training for the academics? Sure. But, you know, you got to try to put it in one category versus the other. So if you said, well, for those people who are going to get trained in the second half, we move that professional development into academics, and we could do that. But you're still going to have to deal with the issue of where the resource is going to come from, any of them.
One more comment. I can almost see this as a money pit. If I own the rights to a responsive classroom, and I was the business owner, what I would want to do every year is change my program and add new philosophies, a new thing. I can just see this every year. Oh, we've come out with a new block of instruction, and this is going to be 10, 15 years down the line. Every year, they've come up with something new, so we've already bought into the program, so let's buy into it again and just keep over and over, because that's their business model. Let's change our program, let's add a new course of instruction, let's add a new philosophy, let's add something new to it, and every year it's going to be a different. You just said this is initial. That just makes me think that there's more and more steps that we're never going to catch up. Now we have new teachers coming in, new administration coming in. You retire in 10 years. Okay, what do we do now?
Well,
or whatever might happen. I don't know what.
Well,
it never ends.
It doesn't end, and it's not supposed to end, and that's how the state wants it. The state wants teachers to continually be educated.
But why pay a program to do that?
Because that's what you do.
May I make a comment on that? Part of the idea behind this plan is that you train the teachers initially so that the whole school has the same consistency. But the actual long-term plan of this is that you get a couple of people that become trainers. So you don't spend this amount of money. And then when you get new teachers, those trainers that you have in-house do the training.
And have to be recertified.
No, because the people on the vineyard have been doing it, I don't know. I trained 4 people over there, and I think they've been doing it for 8 years.
Can I ask a point-blank question?
Mm-hmm.
So you've had at least 8 years of experience. How much does this cost Martha's Vineyard?
It was a similar kind of cost because we did it 25 kids at 25 staff at a time. The training for the actual trainers, which I think was the best investment that we made, came out of a grant, and those were, I think we did 4 trainers, and they were, after they had done training 1 and training 2, the train-to-trainer training was $12,000 for the 4 of them. And now they've been doing it on a regular basis over there. So
how much have they spent, though? The same amount you said?
I know Oak Bluffs, which was the school that started it, spent, I want to say about $200,000. And Chilmark, which was one of the schools that I ran, I think because we were smaller, I think we spent about $25,000, but it was a very small school. And during that time, that's when we trained the trainers, because the other schools wanted to have a piece of it. And we felt that it was too expensive to send everybody to the training. So we decided to get our own trainers, and that's why we did that. That's another way to do it, is to simply focus on a few people, but until you have a baseline of some people who are interested in the program, that's where you would get your trainers. So we could further reduce the exposure and just focus on a few people who are early introducers of the program, and then from there get some trainers.
And what if a teacher doesn't buy into it? What happens if they say, this is not my teaching style, and I want to teach my class this way?
Well, let me ask you this. What would be the difference between that and saying, when a kid does X, Y, and Z, I'm just going to let him call out in the middle of class when it's disruptive? If I was an administrator, I would go, that's not acceptable in our school. Or if you have kids who are not in line or pushing each other as they're walking from art back to the classroom, and one teacher says, well, I think that's okay, but I was an administrator walking next to that kid, I said, no, that is not acceptable. So there's a certain level of expectation that if everybody has the same expectations, you're going to hold other staff accountable for it. But if you don't train them, the staff will come back and say, well, you didn't train me to do that.
Mr. Sullivan?
I'd like to make a motion, revise my motion that's on the table. And with that revision, I believe if we have a second to it, then we will have some discussion to follow. Okay. My revision would be to adjust the money from the regular budget or grant resources column heading to read money from grant resources, comma, and regular budget not to exceed 10% of total.
10% of total what?
That's the column change. So if you have $15,000, you can spend $1,500 on number one and find the grants to pay for the balance of the total spent.
We're not appropriating money here.
Well, this is part of the motion, so I'm discussing revising it so we can get this district improvement plan approved. Or if you want to just remove the time frame of the budget aspect, but again, let's get the motion on the table and then get into the discussion. The motion.
We would need a second to that revision.
Right, that's what I want to clarify the motion first.
So are you saying in the money from regular budget or grant resources, 10% from regular budget, the rest from grant? Is that the intent of your motion?
Correct.
Okay.
Of what total?
He's talking the resources needed for,
The line item
Right.
total.
It keeps
line
the
item.
plan in place
and just says if we can get it from grants, we get it from grants. If not, well, then you don't
That's
implement.
what I'm going to have anyway. Let's get the
By
second.
10%?
But yes,
10% from the
that,
regular budget
that's what my
The remaining.
intent of my wording.
from the regular budget.
From
Yeah,
the budget.
I just wanted to make sure we had it.
Okay, well, I don't have it. So, I mean, there are two, there's money from grants.
She can write what she has, and that's the motion.
I have revised the motion to adjust the money from regular budget or grant resources by 10% from regular budget.
Which means the remaining would come from the regular,
So
the
for
grants.
clarification, this wording is going to say what again?
I have revised motion,
The
adjust
motion's
money
gonna be
from
spent.
regular budget or grant resources by 10%
10% of
from the
that, or
regular
10%
budget.
of that?
No.
Or
I would say
10%
so
of
that
No,
10%
this-
will come from
this-
the regular budget.
I'm
The
crossing out this
10% of what?
wording on this column. Maximum,
Are you redoing your motion?
it's same intent, but it doesn't seem to capture a heading for this, which the chairman is having some trouble with, so
Well, I just want to know 10% of what?
total expenditure as listed here.